For the kind invitation to speak here today. It's my pleasure to be here with the Mayor Pro Tem and the other elected officials, and it is my honor to be here with some Gold Star families and with the veterans, active duty, reserve, and National Guardsmen of Fullerton, California. We're here today on this beautiful afternoon to honor those that have served to protect our freedoms. It is sometimes said that we take our freedoms for granted. That may be true from time to time, but on most days, and especially this day, we Americans are thankful for our freedoms. We're thankful for the freedom to assemble, both for celebrations like this or to protest peacefully for change. We're thankful to have freedom of speech and freedom of press. We're thankful for our religious freedom and for our freedom of thought. We're thankful that we live in this great country, and today, on Veterans Day, we are thankful most of all for the men and women that make those freedoms possible. The average age of someone serving in the military today is less than 21 years old. Not so long ago, the parents of those young people were fussing at them to do their laundry and pick up their room. But today, those same teenagers have grown up into the men and women of the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, and Coast Guard. They are proud to serve their country, and we are proud of them. It's important to remember that all those serving in our military today are volunteers. They're smart, they're physically fit, they are well-trained and well-equipped. Our men and women in uniform are ready to take a life, they are ready to save lives, and they are ready to sacrifice their own lives in support of cause and country. The American people, especially its young people, have a unique willingness to serve. They serve regardless of political party, regardless of the color of their skin, regardless of who they love, and regardless of which God they worship, if any. They serve regardless of how their parents or their grandparents might have been treated in this country, and they serve regardless of how long they've called America home. They come from our small towns and our big cities, and they are truly a cross-section of this wonderful country. And they are serving on our behalf all over this world. Veterans Day, originally known as Armistice Day, was designated in 1918 to commemorate the end of the First World War. World War I, or the Great War, as it was called back then, was supposed to be the war that ended all wars. Of course, as we know, it did not. It was not the last time that our nation would go to war, and it was not the last time the young Americans would answer the call to duty. Instead, our young men and women have answered that call again and again and again. Looking back at the fine Americans that fought and won the Second World War, Tom Brokaw rightfully described them as the greatest generation. Hundreds of thousands of them fought on the rolling pastures in the cities of Europe. Still more of them fought on the beaches and the jungles of the Pacific. And as if that wasn't enough, they were put to work again just a few short years later to defend freedom on the Korean Peninsula. When they were done fighting, they came back home, and they made a difference back here too. In Vietnam, we called on another, indeed I would argue, a second greatest generation to answer the nation's call once again. And answer it they did. Our Vietnam veterans, many of whom are with us here today, answered the call to support freedom in yet another far-off land that they had never heard of before. And just like those before them that fought in World War I and World War II and Korea, they were heroic and dedicated and willing to risk life and limb in the service of their country. And when they were done fighting, they also came home. And they made a difference here too. Unfortunately, as we know all too well, some of our Vietnam heroes are still suffering from that war. Certainly our nation, a nation that was clearly not as grateful for their service as it should have been at the time, bears a continuing responsibility for all that our Vietnam veterans have endured. And each year, on Veterans Day, we are reminded that we have an obligation to make things right with our Vietnam vets. We have made some progress, but we need to do some more. Since September 11, 2001, terrorism has become the new global threat that America must face and defeat. But have no doubt, just as we beat back totalitarianism, fascism, and communism last century, we will surely also defeat the growing evil of terrorism in this century. Harnessing all our national power is required to win this war. Diplomatic power will be important, economic power will be essential, but as always, the key to victory, the key to the survival of our nation and to the survival of our way of life will be, as it always has been, America's military power. The military men and women that have been fighting this war for almost 15 years now, many of them who are serving and fighting this very day overseas to defeat ISIS, will be America's third greatest generation. As our veterans from Iraq and Afghanistan finish their tours of military service and transition back to civilian life, they are facing the same challenges that our veterans of previous wars faced. Right now in towns across America, indeed right here in Fullerton, California, our newest veterans are reconnecting with their friends and families. They're getting to know their wives and their husbands and their children all over again. They're joining our communities, our churches, and our companies, and we should open our arms to welcome them back home. Some of our heroes, not nearly as many as Hollywood would have us believe, but some for sure, need a little extra help. And for those that do need that help, for those with post-traumatic stress disorder or traumatic brain injury, we must ensure that they have all the resources that they deserve. I'm happy to report, however, that the overwhelming majority of Iraq and Afghanistan veterans, of which I'm proud to be one myself, are transitioning back home just fine. We truly appreciate it when someone says, "Thank you for your service," but you should all know that we are not done yet. We intend also to make a difference back here at home. Thanks to a generous post-9/11 GI Bill, this latest, greatest generation is going to college and trade schools in record numbers. We're growing our families, we're making new friends, we're staying in touch with our old friends that we shared so much with during our tours of duty in Iraq and Afghanistan. We're climbing corporate ladders, we're starting our own businesses. We're continuing to serve our country by joining great service organizations like the American Red Cross, the American Legion, and Veterans of Foreign Wars. We're becoming teachers and doctors and ministers, and we are now making a difference here at home, just like our fathers and our grandfathers did when they came home from war. So for all the young men and women in the crowd today, for all those great junior ROTC cadets that have been part of our celebration today, for all of you young people out there that are eager to follow in the footsteps of the World War II, Vietnam, Korea, Iraq, and Afghanistan veterans that are here today, I welcome you to take that challenge. I encourage you to stay focused, to study hard, to stay out of trouble, and to continue setting the example for your peers, and to prepare yourselves for service to your country. The world now, just as it always has been and always will be, is full of tension and conflict and uncertainty for so many. Fortunately, however, for those of us that live here in America, our future is quite certain. It is certain indeed that we will continue to enjoy the freedoms that we cherish. But always keep in mind that this uniquely American future is only certain for one reason, and for one reason only. Our future is certain because of the young men and young women in the American military that stand ready, willing, and able to answer the call to duty. It's been said before, and it is very true, but America is the land of the free because of the brave. You can be sure that great young Americans like these will always answer the call of our nation. They will always fight the wars that surely will need to be fought, and they will do it with honor and with courage. So, to all the young folks standing out there today in formation, to those of you that are willing to serve, we thank you. But most importantly, to the veterans here today, to the veterans that have set such a fine example for those young people to follow me, trust me when I say that on behalf of a grateful nation, I thank you for your service. America thanks you for all that you have done and for all that you continue to do. Happy Veterans Day, and God bless you.